cell tower.
I was gonna say if that's national time. No, it's 59.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will struggle. Consider the minutes of the meeting of March 6, 2018. Anything?
I move that we accept the minutes from the March 6, 2018 meeting.
Second.
Discussion? Brenda?
Commissioner Bell? Commissioner Hawks?
Aye.
Commissioner Nessa? Aye. Commissioner Hager?
Aye.
Mayor Jones?
Aye. Discuss and review appropriation ordinances C-0228-18 and P-0309-18. I did have a couple of questions on that. The first one there, 22,400.
That is the airport drawdown, and that's for the taxiway that we're looking at.
The airport taxiway.
Yeah, we have a grant for the taxiway
We passed
to
it.
end
2 months ago?
That was for the lighting system.
well, they call it the taxiway
Yeah.
on the paperwork.
Okay, because I'll have to go back and check that, because I thought the figure on that was 54,600. On the MITL, our cost share was 10%, and the FAA was paying for 90% of it.
We have to always pay and then we get reimbursed.
Okay.
So
Wow.
it's gonna be drawdowns.
Okay. Next one was the airport surveys. Just a question on that, have all the surveys been completed now, or?
No, well, they have, but they have to come back and go over. He has all the field work complete, he just needs to finish up the office work, the drawing side of it.
But then that'll take care of it.
He said it should be done in a couple of weeks.
Great. I'm glad that we finally got that tended to. It's been needing to get done for a while. We just, next was 22,455, the Lochner. I didn't.
That's for the airport as well.
And then below that, 22,458, the boat docks.
Yeah, we have to pay for them, and then after it's completed and they're installed, they're installed in the water, then we get the money back. So we're looking like at June or in July.
Okay.
Is that a grant?
Yes.
issue?
Yeah.
And
But they
then,
have to be installed.
right, 22,462, the signs.
There were several of them. There was signs, they painted all the trash cans and stuff and put, I don't know, like sticker things on those, I think were signs, Leo told me. And then also, we had to replace intersection signs, and some of the signs that were missing, we're having to do a larger sign that has larger letters and reflective, because what we have now, they're not reflective, so we're supposed to replace those. So we're doing a few at a time.
That'll be ongoing then. Sounds good.
We'll do more next year.
Yep. Moving on to public forum. Looks like we have one tonight, Natasha Barnett.
It's
Number
quite-
20.
Number 20 on your agenda. It's the resignation, and then I have another question that I'm also going to make. Okay, I see, on your agenda, you have the resignation coming in for Sherry Patton
Right.
on the planning commission. I did go ahead and I looked on the website. I'm a little concerned because you guys now only will have 2 members on that planning commission. I did ask Dave one time about, in the code book, your 8-201, it's involving the zoning committee, the appeals committee. And it says something about you're only supposed to be allowed 1 member from our board, that appeals board, over on the planning commission. Now, at the time, because Sherry is currently still on that planning commission, she also is on the zoning board appeals. So am I. And so is Dennis, I think?
Dennis is the representative of
The
the Board
plan.
of Zoning, yeah, the planning commission that's on the Board of Zoning. So you're supposed to have 1 member
Exactly.
representing, and
Now-
Dennis is the one representing that board.
Okay, now Sherry was also on both boards.
Right, but she wasn't representing.
And I don't know that the code is specific to it being that, it just says we're only allowed 1 member, so I was gonna ask if maybe we could clarify that, because I would go ahead and put my application in for the planning committee, but that's kind of the only thing that I see holding me up, because I am on that zoning board, on the appeal board. The second issue that I have involving the land bank with this, I had come across last year, at the end of the year, I'd gotten paperwork that when we had traded property with Ed, he was supposed to take half of one of his lots and join it with ours, and it was gonna make 1420, it would've made it 1,300 square feet. Well, I kept ending up with this extra paperwork and I couldn't figure out what it was from. And when I ended up with the evaluation this year, I went ahead and I got on the website and I looked. That little portion did not get added to ours. So I called today to ask what we had to do. Now, in the zoning book, it says something about if it makes an extra parcel, then I have to comply with this zoning book. And it also, the appraiser's office had made the comment that because it would be an extra parcel, the city would be receiving special assessments on it. So I have to get the city's approval so we can join these like they were meant to be, because technically they would be accounting for those assessments, part of last year and this year. So I kind of need the okay from the city that they're okay that we do that. That extra piece of parcel that we ended up with, it's only 37.5 feet
Right, and it was
across.
supposed to be added to the lot next to it.
Yes, because we have listed at 1420 Gerke, we have it listed as 1,300 square feet. It's only 9,000
Right, so
without that, yes. So I've got to have the okay of the governing body before we can do anything. And I guess my question would be, do I need to deal with the zoning too, because it's 2 separate plots now?
I don't understand why that would have to get approval from the zoning.
Because it says in there, if you change things and it makes it to where you can split it as long as you're not making 2 separate parcels, like an extra one that did not usually exist. It's in the subdivision part is why I'm asking. So as long as I'm okay, then that's fine, I won't worry about that part. I just need the okay from the city for us to go ahead and join
Right.
these two like they were meant to be.
I don't see a problem or where it would require approval from zoning or anything. Anybody else? Concerns?
Okay,
Think we're good?
okay, then we're fine. Okay, that's all I needed, thank you.
Additional agenda item. And I motion we approve the agenda as submitted.
I'll second it.
Discussion? Brenda?
Commissioner Bill?
Aye.
Commissioner Hawks?
Aye.
Commissioner Nestle? Aye. Commissioner Hager?
Aye.
Mayor Jones?
Aye. Rural Development Finance Overview.
And we have Chelsea here instead of Sean. So, sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. Hello. I'm here about the water treatment facility and the financing for that. This all kind of came together very last minute, so I'm winging it somewhat, but hopefully I can answer questions you may have. I have copies. What I have tonight is just some discussion over the financing package, and I have our letter of conditions for the rural development direct loan, and then 2 forms authorized or accepting the rural development direct loan. If you choose to. So I did bring copies of this letter. I have 10 copies. Here's the original. And then we can go through the letter real quick and talk about the project. So we started with the city a long time ago, it seems like, on getting financing to replace the water treatment facility. We have submitted the project for funding at our national office. To date, we have not received the funds. There's a lot of things that play on the federal level that's slowing us down. We did get word, though, that we can get funds for the project to obligate them and lock in the interest rate to this letter before the end of the month, if we can bring a guaranteed loan into this package. So what that means is we're offering a loan for 3.191, and you would get a guaranteed loan from CoBank, who is a farm credit lender. They do infrastructure loans across the country. They're based in Denver. They would give you $500,000 towards the project, and we would guarantee that to them, so they would be able to offer you a longer term and a fixed rate. Again, the reasons for this is we don't have a full funding bill yet this year. So, nationally, the guaranteed program for our water and sewer utility program has always had money allocated to it, but we've had so much direct money we haven't dipped into it. And now Congress is seeing that there's all this guaranteed money out there that we're not using. And so we're trying to use that in projects where it makes sense, where we have applicants in good financial health like you who can afford that guaranteed component in your project. We've been having some preliminary discussions with CoBank. We've talked with Brenda and with Brad as well. CoBank is in the process of reviewing the city's credit to finalize the guaranteed portion of the loan. Right now, they are talking a 30-year portion at a 5.25% interest rate. That rate would be for the entire 30 years, and that's on $500,000. The only fee for that loan would be the standard 1% of the guarantee amount. So they're waiving all their typical underwriting fees for this project. They're estimating they can be done with their underwriting and their approvals in early to mid-April. So, so that would be $500,000. We have, we can obligate the remaining 3.191 for 40 years at 2.75% interest for the remainder of the project. If we obligate that, we can ensure that the design gets completed and the project can go out to bid and keep moving along. That being said, though, that is contingent on having both of those funding partners mixed together. So, before I go through the letter of conditions for our direct loan portion, what questions do you have? Or if any questions. Like I said, this all came together very quickly. We've had some discussions with Brad and Brenda. I'm here to answer questions and figure out how we can fund this to get the city down the road. So let me know what I can do.
We're still looking at a $1 million loan forgiveness on this project,
Yeah,
once it's completed.
yeah, that's accurate, yes.
Yeah, so Doug told me that today, that we're still looking at that. He thought we might be eligible for some additional funding. He wasn't able to be here tonight because this all came together like Chelsea
Yeah,
said
it
at the last
came
minute.
together very quickly.
I'm
Because
kind of
our-
curious.
Our interest rate, just to add to kind of the urgency of this, the interest rate that we set our direct loan off of is going up April 1st, so that's why we want to,
That's why we.
get these
Well,
done, yeah, so,
Absolutely, I
yeah.
get that. I'm
Yeah.
a little unclear how the mechanics are gonna work in this, because you get a 3.191 loan here, and you get a 500,000 loan here at a, by today's standards, I think an outrageous interest rate, but that's probably going away in the next year or two anyway, so maybe that's not a concern, and then I just don't know how
Yeah.
that's gonna work
Well,
out.
we discussed that briefly again, we've got to flesh some of that out, we made some phone calls, Brenda did, and I did too, today with regard to other banking institutions who are interested in doing it. Part of our issue is going to be how long,
right.
and we have to work through that, because you're right, there's no prepayment penalty on the co-bank
Right.
element of it, and that is at 5.25, which gets your attention. There's also that ability to look at those GOs, although I'm not sure we want to do that, given our debt ceiling.
Yeah.
Where's the $1 million coming back from? Where's that
It's,
for forgiveness?
for forgiving it, you probably know more than that.
No, I really don't, other than what I've seen in the paperwork.
The KDHE has a state revolving loan fund to pay for water and sewer improvements. They're doing the construction financing for your project, and then will be the takeout loan. How the principal forgiveness works is a portion of your project, once the construction's complete, so say you borrow $3 million from them for construction, when the construction's complete, then you would only have to pay them $2 million back.
We do like a bridge loan with an element of forgiveness at the end, and it depends upon what that total is. There's up to a maximum that they will.
There is, and I haven't seen the KDHE paperwork, and
He
so.
said it's approximately 2 million something.
Oh, guaranteed the forgiveness, I mean,
Yeah. Yeah,
Up
that's
to a
their way
million,
of,
Right,
in
I
terms of
mean-
Right.
local, governmental entities that provide the hygienic services, whether it's water or whatever, that those are upgraded and continually maintained. It's a pooled fund, and they use it for that purpose to go ahead and assist and get to the end of this thing, you don't owe as much, and that's their way of doing it. And they serve as, they're handy also because that bridge loan portion is expensive
Right.
in the interim, and they do cover that for us.
But if we don't do the guarantee loan, there's a chance we're not going to get
Right,
there.
and I'm
I mean,
not
so-
saying that we shouldn't do that.
Yeah,
We
that's
should
why
go ahead
we're
and
having
secure it.
to,
On the 1 million principal forgiveness, we did talk about that, and I will caution you just because we've seen it happen in other communities. At the end of your project, KDHE will review all your expenses, and they'll pull out what they don't want to reimburse you for,
Yeah.
so it may not be a million when it all
Right.
shakes out.
But
But,
you can forgive the 5% interest on the 500,000.
well, we don't, I don't know that guaranteed lender would be agreeable to that. What we would probably do would be equally reduce both the direct loan and the guaranteed loan amount.
And then to look for alternative sources of financing to take that portion out entirely.
Right,
Because that 5.25, obviously, relative to what we're paying on the rest of it is a significant sum. It's on a small fractional portion of it, but it has some minimal impact on our overall cost to the end consumer right now.
Right.
I did real rough calculations on that last night, and it's not something that would take your breath away, but I'd sure like to avoid it if we can.
we did some rough calculations on our end, and we also, took out dropped it back to a GO for
Yeah.
the revenue, because that
Yeah.
does cost more. The debt service for the guarantee loan plus the debt service for the loan we're offering, let's see, would make it so to pay everything back and pay for your O and M, you would need to collect about $39.13
Yeah.
per 5,000 gallons.
Right.
We match. So, I mean,
It was 39.14, so we're pretty close.
we're very close. So, and based on your history and your revenues from the last couple of years, even at 5.25, while you would want to graduate that loan to something at a lower rate, I don't feel it would put the city in any hardship to have that out there. Now, you mentioned local lenders. If you can secure guaranteed financing with a local lender, and you don't have to use CoBank who's in here, we
Yeah.
just have to have a guaranteed
Right.
partner
Use-
at the table.
I've used one local
Oh.
lender before who's at least interested in considering it. The big issue is going to be how long. When we started talking about the match at 40, there was a little bit of grind there, but for 30 didn't seem to be quite as big a deal and didn't say no to either one, just wanted to know firmly what we were talking about.
Right.
And then I quite frankly just asked, can we be below quarter, and that didn't seem to be an issue.
Okay. Would it be a fixed or would it be an adjusted?
They did say fixed,
Okay,
because I have no
okay.
interest in adjusting.
Yeah, we've had some lenders nationwide say, oh, we'll do 40 years, and they show us a low rate,
Every
but then
5,
it's adjustable,
yeah.
we're like, no, so 5.25 is high, but when you're talking fixed, yeah, so.
Okay, so on that loan, whatever the loan forgiveness or the principal forgiveness rate turns out to be, whatever that number is, it'll be some of it on this loan and some of it on the other loan.
Correct. Correct. And, because that would be the construction, the bridge financing, so we could, because the letter of condition says this, or we obligate the money, we can always reduce the amount later on.
Right.
So, and as can the guarantee.
Anything else we should be looking at or concerned about, or?
Well, at first blush, no, we kind of went through all of that. Do want to go back over it in a little more detail now that we've made a few phone calls to see what the total package is. But our biggest concern, the exigency of this, is keeping the 2.75 on
Absolutely.
over $3 million. That's going to April 1. No one anticipated the continuing resolution that we're living under in terms of federal budget. And so and we're fifth of the, there's 5 in line, he was saying, and we're, in terms of prioritization, we're fifth. So if they start releasing money, we're not the first ones to get it. So to get this obligated, get it confirmed and committed, we really need to work through that.
And trying to argue on the 5.25 and end up suffering a little on the 2.75 is.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
It's
The
not gonna
numbers
work
don't
in our
match up,
favor.
yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Well, and the bank here said that they were sure they would do it as well. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't get any rates from them because, like Brad said, I couldn't tell them. I told them 40 years and they didn't seem to balk at it.
So we've got time later on to get all that figured out. We just gotta get this nailed down now before rates go up.
Right.
Right,
Okay.
right, yeah, so, yeah.
Just for
But-
referencing, I think you had mentioned that April 1 is 3 1/8. So that's a significant jump for that one.
Yes.
$3 million, that's all.
Yeah.
So when do you have to know about the guaranteed loan part?
The letter of conditions is subject to, approval and acceptance of a guaranteed loan. So basically, we can't authorize you to go to bid until we know that the guaranteed loan is in place. I know design has already
Right.
started. We wouldn't authorize any bid or approve any plans until we knew the guarantee was in place. So, I would, as fast as you want to move, I guess I would move that.
But that doesn't preclude us locking the 2.75
No,
commitment, as I
no.
understand it. So.
No, it's
Okay.
just, we wouldn't, like I said, approve it for construction until that was in place. So. Let me go to my other notes and see.
So you've got documents for approval and signature tonight?
Yes, I have 2 documents for approval and signature tonight. One is the request for obligation of funds, and I think these just require a motion and vote. And this is just the official government form that we use to set the money aside for the city of Herington at that amount and that interest rate. And then I have the letter of intent to meet conditions. And this is your acknowledgement that we've discussed the letter of conditions I have that I've given you, and that you do intend to meet those conditions and use the funds for that purpose.
So we're doing a request for obligation, a letter of intent, and was there a third one?
Just the letter of conditions, but there's nothing to sign, I just
Okay.
go through that.
Just say that.
Real quick, I will go through this letter of conditions. I won't talk about everything in here. Again, the total project cost is $3,691,000. We're offering a loan for $3,191,000 with a guaranteed loan for $500,000. The project cost is listed in number 3. We based our costs off of the PER that was prepared by the The interest rate for the direct loan is 2 3/4. Right now, plan for an annual payment of $132,555. That will be finalized when the loan closes at the end of construction. If rates go down again and somehow we get you a lower rate when the loan closes, you can get a lower rate, but it'll never go higher. We did do this on the assumption it would be a GO bond. The guaranteed lender we've been talking with, as far as security, they'll be on parity with rural development. I don't know what, if you use a different lender, what their security is gonna look like, if they'll be fine with being on parity.
I don't know if the bank here mentioned that, but they didn't seem to have an issue with
Okay.
parity line.
Great, okay. So after we obligate this money, the project must be completed and all funds dispersed within 5 years. If for some reason it's going to extend longer than 5 years, we're not gonna yank the money away and stop the project, but we hope it doesn't take you 5 years.
Me too.
Feels like we've been working on this for 5 years.
It does,
Been 3
it
years.
does. Our loan and budgeting for the project does include an establishment of a short-lived asset account. This is for items identified by your engineer that would have a life expectancy above 5 years but less than 30. Annually, you'll need to deposit $7,533 into that account. Excuse me. Environmental requirements. We did an environmental study on the project, and your engineer is aware of all this. We worked with the National Historical Society because you have a historic water building. So we have a plan to preserve that. It is listed on the back page of the letter, the mitigation that we have to do for the project. I think everybody has concurred and is comfortable with what we're doing, but it is all listed in here. That's your big environmental. Projects that generate a waste stream must coordinate with KDHE for a waste stream disposal review. You'll need to get the appropriate permits. Structures located in the floodplain must be flood-proofed, or base elevation certificates provided showing that structures are built out of the 500-year floodplain. We've worked through the engineer with that.
Is that side of the street in the floodplain?
Parts of it. And it's not the 100, it's the 500 year, which is where our money is appropriated at in the federal law. At 500 year comes into play. I'm sorry.
Can't be in by much.
Yeah. An asbestos inspection for demolition is required. Traffic, any permitting or construction beneath the highways or within the right-of-way requires permitting. So those are the environmental things to be aware of as we plan the project. Again, our engineer will review all the final plans and specs for compliance with rural development. Our funds are subject to American iron and steel requirements that require that iron and steel for your project be American made. It's very similar to what KDHE has for their interim financing. Property rights, you have to have the right of way for all work, own or have the right of way for all the work. We talked about the interim financing. You'll use the temporary financing to pay for construction and we're the takeout loan. We made, at the time of this letter, or at the time the loan was submitted for funding, there was 1,075 residential users, 117 non-residential users, and 2 wholesale users. We need to verify the number of users when the loan closes to make sure there's been no drastic reductions, since we're basing the repayment off of that. We have to have evidence of the other funding prior to going to bid. If bids come in higher than expected, we're talking over that 3.9 or 3.6, We can look at additional loan or grant money to bridge the gap, if we need to. If bids come in lower and there's a lot of extra money, we will again probably de-obligate, proportionately between guaranteed loan and our loan. The attorney will review and certify all contracts for the city. We have insurance and bonding requirements listed here. Let's see, you're reading all these. Again, funds remaining are returned at the end of the project, unless there is something that comes up during the project, like a cost overrun, and we can justify, we can spend extra money on something like that. You can make a prepayment of the loan. Graduation of the loan, we review your file every 3 to 5 years after the loan closes. If it appears you could get commercial credit at exceptional rates and terms, we would ask you to explore refinancing the loan. Operational security visits, I will come out every 3 years to visit and see if there's any problems. We do review, and we review your financials annually, annual budgets, your audits. Those need to be submitted to us every year. You are subject to numerous civil rights laws because it's federal money. Those are listed under item 45. We basically don't want any discrimination in users of your water system. Why would you discriminate against somebody who wants to support or pay you money? But we do review for that. So all of those are there. When I come out on the 3-year visits, I do review the civil rights information. That is the highlights of the letter. Are there any questions on anything you see in the letter?
But I do have a question. We were wondering if I talked about today, if there is a way to add our water pumps out of the lake. It's, we have 3 pumps.
Mhm.
One is not working at all. The other one is not great.
Okay.
So we were wanting to know if there was a way to incorporate that
Into
or
the
if.
project? Yeah, he can incorporate it into his final design, and we'll look at it then and we approve the final design. Where we sometimes run into a problem is if we have an engineer who says, like yours is for water treatment, so they, tell us what's wrong with the water treatment, but then they say, all the distribution lines in town are fine. Okay, well then they have money left and all of a sudden they're just like, oh, we need to replace 6 blocks of line. Well, we can just do that at the beginning of the project, so
Right.
pumps, that shouldn't be too much.
Okay.
Has Buck said anything about the aquatic nuisance aspect of those pumps out there? It hasn't become an issue yet, but it's going to become an issue. It's just a matter of time.
It is. No, I didn't have a really chance. He's on break, and I just wanted to ask him about that real quick because it just was brought to my attention
Right.
that we have an issue out there.
Does
So
he know about, like, approximately how much that would be for 3 pumps?
I don't think it's outrageous.
No, and that's something too, like if we replace them, I don't know that we accounted for that in the short-lived assets we did. So if we didn't, we might want to look at reevaluating
Yeah,
that
I
to
don't know.
beef that.
I don't think we did.
I can't remember,
What'd you call it?
The short-lived assets. So we might want to look at bumping that amount you're putting aside up to replace those
Okay.
pumps as well.
Okay.
Yeah, it's at 7,500 or so now, that's what it's for.
Yeah.
If we do just so that I'm clear on it, to be absolutely certain, coverage ratio is only gonna apply if we utilize the revenue. Right now, we've calculated this doing GOs, which
Right.
wouldn't require that.
Right.
The construction account audit, separate audit, or can we use our auditor to go ahead and do that? And if so, can we do it in our annual audit, or do you want that to be separate? I get that different answers on that with these letters each time.
Well, and they changed the
I know.
gap stuff, so.
That's why I thought, that's why you guys get the big bucks to tell me whether that's
Yeah,
gotta
an annual audit under the Single Audit Act is required.
When you look at the Single Audit Act, they stress single. And then I've done it where we went ahead and put it with ours, really wasn't any additional cost through our auditor. And then in the other instances, they would allow any certified public accountant to do it, but then they had a list. And that gets to that last one in terms of the, who you allow to do it. We get into some issues there, so I'm just trying to.
I think our stance has always been, if you're already having an audit done, to
Utilize that.
utilize that.
Okay.
So,
And then also, I didn't ask you guys yesterday, the bonding, typically our coverage has sufficient bonding on most everything because we're required to maintain that
right.
as a municipality. But the one that I've run into on these several times is that employee, the failure to perform or employee dishonesty one. Are we gonna need to try to come up with something separate from that?
You can keep what you have in place, provided the coverage is
Sufficient.
sufficient.
Okay. That's gonna be, sufficient would mean whatever is the outstanding indebtedness. Okay. And then I presume they will provide the resolutions that relate to number 45, because every time we end up having to do 2 or 3 of those to assure that our practices meet that standard.
Right, and I didn't bring those tonight because you've previously done those.
Yeah, that's fine. If
Well-
you don't have them, I do.
Okay.
So,
Well, on other projects, when you've already passed them for, one project, you just
utilize those?
utilize those.
Okay,
So
that's
I
fine with
didn't,
me.
yeah.
It's not a big deal to do
Because
it
they're
either way.
not necessarily project specific, they're borrower
They're a general
specific.
statement.
Right.
Yeah. Although the last ones I did indicated it was for a particular project
Okay.
that we were undertaking, so that's why I asked. I
Okay.
thought they were starting to get more picky about that.
Yeah, we looked at them I looked at them and I thought, I'm not gonna mess with those in case we just need to pull them from one file to the
Okay.
other.
Okay.
Yeah. On the, you mentioned, so this is based off GEO bond. Did you talk with bond counsel on your bond limit?
Yes.
Or your-
We're gonna need to talk a little bit more. The 30% of assessed, and then we checked with the accountant today, August 2017 assessed valuation was $10,242,294. 30% is $3,072,688. We're a little under $1 million of remaining room right now, and I need to look at that bond that we end up being out of next year as to what that does for us, whether there's gonna be a comfort level to do it that way. It can be done, let's put it that way.
Okay.
Just how close do they wanna get to bumping up against that ceiling?
Sure. And again, we were under the impression that utility improvements didn't affect.
It shouldn't, but I
Yeah.
didn't get a hold of JT
Okay.
today. I looked at it statutorily, and I think that's right, but I don't do the bond work, and I don't wanna do the bond.
I don't want to do
Um,
that work either.
So I want him to tell me that definitively.
Yeah. And we did add an extra into the legal fees on the project because there will be more than one bond.
Yeah.
Bond counsel fees might be a little higher. So, we
I thought
hope.
you were just trying to get Brad paid now.
No.
Yes.
Your bond counsel's
He
gonna
just
get
said he
paid.
doesn't want it for bonds.
He wants to pay me.
Yeah, I want the money.
He just wants to check.
Yeah. So are there any other questions about what we talked about?
So then are we ready to sign these things then? Is there any questions? Then we need to go back to additional agenda items, number 5. And then I would ask that we add item 7A. Consider letter of intent to meet conditions and request for obligation of funds.
And did I need to list the letter of conditions just so it's in the motion or not?
That they, that they accept the letter of condition.
Incorporated by reference.
Can I see this so I can make the motion?
See what?
The letter of reference, does it have a
It's
number?
this,
This is the letter.
this
of
is the letter of
condition.
reference that we went through.
But I mean, the signature, we need to,
Oh, the two forms?
I got those here so that we'll sign them after. It just says request for obligation of funds and letter of intent to meet conditions.
And these are the conditions that we just went over.
maybe. Second on the additional user agenda item.
Discussion? Brenda?
Bill?
Aye.
Commissioner Knox?
Aye.
Commissioner Nestle? Aye. Commissioner Hager?
Aye.
Mayor Johnson?
Aye. Then we'll move on to item 7A. consider a letter of intent to meet conditions and request for obligation of funds.
I move that we accept the letter of intent and authorize Mayor Jones to sign the letter of obligation of funds.
Discussion. Brenda? Still
Sorry. Commissioner Bill,
Aye.
Commissioner Hawks.
Was there a second on that?
Aye. Mark.
Aye.
Commissioner Hager. Mayor Jones.
right. Aye. So I still think you're calling Robin Commissioner Bill, so.
Yeah.
Just to
We're
double
very
check.
informal.
Mark made that motion, you seconded it?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Anything else I can do for you,
Do you
Chelsea?
need to take these, give me back now?
Like I said, we want to get the rate locked in before the end
Yeah,
of
so
the
do we.
month. If I take them
We don't
now,
have to read it. After he signs, I want to make a copy.
Sure,
if you don't
that's
care.
perfectly fine. And then you'll get a letter from our office in Topeka that'll be signed by Sean in about 10 days. Oh, don't make any formal announcements on this until after you get that letter from us.
Okay.
It's a congressional.
Sure.
He sees it, well,
Thank you guys for bearing with us during this. We have been working on this for a while.
I appreciate you coming in.
Oh, no
3 years.
problem.
Especially so quickly.
3 years in April. We started this 3 years ago next month.
Oh.
We started this whole process with Buck.
That's awesome.
I'm gonna go make copies real quick.
They move at snail's pace.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, Chelsea. Well, we're waiting on Brenda to get back. Ed, do you have something to pass out for to us?
You all should have a packet already.
I already have it.
We already have it.
Yep.
Okay, right here.
No, that's mine.
Underneath your.
Underneath your front.
Underneath your, yeah.
Well, I got it right here.
I have one
I
right
don't
here.
have it.
Brenda made enough for everybody.
And she handed it out.
He just has so many piles going on, he can't find any of
So
them.
many
It's all
piles.
good. It's all good, we'll forgive him.
You good, Bruce?
Should have someplace to sit.
Yeah, hey, what?
Where you gonna put it?
I told him anywhere downtown.
Right in the middle of the street.
It's gonna say, be the change you wish to see.
Okay, she's back. And just for reference for Commissioner Hawks and Commissioner Bell, we had asked the CBB last year, because they still had money held over from previous years, we had asked for documentation where that money came from, what projects weren't done. Basically saying you need to get the financial reports in order before we give you any more money. We only gave them one payment last year. Ed and his board have been working very hard on this and have got their monthly treasury reports down so that they're actually accounting for money. So that at the end of 2018, whatever money is left in their account, they'll know where it came from, why they still have it, what projects it was saved over from, and it'll be rolled into the 2019 budget. So we've got some documentation going forward on how the accounting is happening. In years past, that wasn't. And you can see that page 2, 3, and 4.
It's so easy to find it.
I've had a couple sleepless nights on that.
As far as the revised priority list, there are some fairly significant changes from the original. The biggest one being the banners that was originally on the 2018 approved budget. They've already purchased. They bought those at 2017 funds, so that was dropped out of their 2018 request, and they've added a couple of other things that I think are good ideas. Mainly being the Kansas Trail, $2,000, and they're doing a lot of good work on the trail here in town. Not the CVB, but
No, I think, Candy Trail. And that money that we've asked for that $2,000 that will not be paid unless they give us a receipt for that. So it's not just handing them $2,000.
and the same thing with the block
And the
party.
same thing with the block party. If they don't have a receipt, they get no money.
What's the chamber events? What's the, for the 2,400?
But there's several things that the chamber puts on throughout the year that is basically drawing in people from out of town, which is tourism, like the Christmas parade, the Halloween parade. That's two I can think of right offhand. There's several things.
I would still advocate that needs to just be 3,600 chamber membership, period. And the reason for that is because the phone number and the point of contact information on all of the CBB, advertisements, literature, everything, all goes to the chamber. You spend a little bit of time over at the chamber office, you realize that the chamber director spends a lot of her time doing tourism stuff, doing welcome aboard packages for people who arrive to town. Anytime there's an all-school reunion, or a car show, or a fair, or anything, people are calling the chamber and asking questions, and because the CVB doesn't have someone who's there to answer those questions, and because we really do not want those questions coming into the city office, the chamber carries the brunt of that load. And so I'm personally a strong advocate of the CVB and the chamber. They have got to work together. They have got to be almost wearing the same jeans. Because trying to split hairs between the Chamber of Commerce job and the Convention and Visitors Bureau, it's like splitting up left Twix, right Twix. So you're not gonna work out for you. So, personal opinion, when I look at that, I don't look at 1,200 for chamber membership and 2,400 for chamber events. I look at that as 3,600 for chamber membership, because that goes to drive and help support the chamber, who, yes, does all of those events, but is an integral part of an active community. And if you don't think so, just look at some of our surrounding communities that no longer have chambers because they wouldn't support it. Just my 2 cents.
Is it okay if I ask a question?
Absolutely.
For the benches for downtown, I was under the impression that you were selling those and people were paying for them themselves.
They're paying half.
They're paying half.
They're paying half.
Okay.
This way, the reason for that is that CVB has kind of control of where those benches are going to be
Sure.
placed. They're not just going to be thrown just anywhere and everywhere. Okay, so now if somebody wants to buy a bench on their own, they can go to CMS and order their own bench, but it's going to cost them $341. Correct. Math teacher.
And
I
then
only
they
know because Ed and I went round and round on what that total was.
Yeah, 341, but they, if they want to order a bench, and then they can place whatever color they want to also. But if it comes through the CED, it will be blue, everything will be exactly the same.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you guys budgeted for 23 benches total?
23 benches, right now we've already got 11 of them. So there's still room for 12 more benches that somebody wants them.
So if they go through the CVB, how much is a bench?
170.50 is your share.
Yeah, 157.
$1.70.
$1.70 and
Half
50
of
cents.
We'll be okay, Ed. Together we'll make this.
Yeah, in fact, I talked her into doing 175 and then started refiguring, wait a minute, I had to pay her $5 back.
You wouldn't let me make a $5 donation. You have to bring me $5 back.
No, because I figured the commissioner said, where in the world that $5 came from?
Just other clarification, just because Ed and I have been talking, and I know a little bit of history behind this, the 2,500 for the lightings of the sign south of the entrance, that's the one down there by the golf courses, come up this into the Y. It's a
Right.
beautiful sign, but if you drive into town at night, you'll never see it because it's not lit. That 2,500 is probably high, but we wanted, you don't want to under budget.
Not much, 'cause right now, just for material, it's gonna cost you.
Right now, thinking majorly solar, but need to check with Westar and see how
Right.
far it would be to run a new line.
So there's no
down.
lighting out there yet?
Never
Not
has
on that
been.
one. And then the second thing, question I had previously asked is on the fire pits out the camp area and asking them if they had got with the Lake Advisory Board, because what we don't want to do is spend $1,400 on fire rings out at the campground and find out that, one, we can't use them, two, we can't move them, and three, nobody wants to use them anyway.
I can ask the chairperson on that one, Rick?
Have made efforts to get with the Lake Advisory Board, and I was informed that they could never get enough to have a quorum to have a board meeting.
And that's been an ongoing issue, and I'm not talking to
And,
you guys on this, just before we buy anything on this, we need to double tap that and make sure that we're getting the right fire rings. We don't end up with this that nobody will ever use because we wanted that.
Yeah, Rick is on the top of that.
They're basically just like the ones they already have.
Okay.
The only difference are these will be staked down. They'll have a tube on each side, on two sides, with a rod that goes into the ground at an angle, so they're not just easily picked up and thrown away or moved. Because I'll guarantee you, there's fire rings out there in the bottom of that lake.
Well,
And,
before you do that though, now you've opened another can of worms, because you gotta check with city crews, because they're gonna mow around them, so they have to be movable. And we don't have enough fire rings for all of the campfire places, so the camp hosts end up moving the fire rings.
the fire rings weren't designated